Hello, everyone. Welcome to the premiere of Lady Lawyer Lockwood Rides Her Tricycle. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Melissa Huber, and I'm wearing two hats this evening. I'm a founder and managing director of Prospect Theater Company. I'm also the producer of the International Festival of Arts and Ideas. Our event is co-hosted tonight by Prospect as part of our Vision series of musical theater on film, and by the festival as part of our Beyond the Vote miniseries. I'd like to start by recognizing that the International Festival of Arts and Ideas is created and produced on the traditional lands of the Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pagosset, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac in Connecticut. Additionally, this film was created and produced on the traditional lands of the Lenape, Wappinger, Haudenosaunee, and the Onondaga in New York. We hope that from wherever you are, you take a moment to acknowledge and honor the Native people whose lands you are on and the history of the place that you are in. You can find out more about Native land near you on nativeland.ca. Find out the International Festival of Arts and Ideas and Prospect Theater Company stand with Black Lives Matter and the countless citizens in our own cities and across the country who are exercising their right to protest the systemic racism and at the root of police violence. We stand in solidarity with the Black and Brown communities who are targeted and abused by unjust systems of oppression. We have a rich program tonight, including the premiere of the film, a discussion with its creators, all kicked off by a short Her Story lesson and virtual toast. To start our program, I'd like to now introduce my colleague and Prospect co-founder, producing artistic director, Cara Reichel.
Hi, good evening. I'm so thrilled to be here and share this film, this theater on film project with both the festival's audience and with Prospect Theater Company's audience. So thank you for that, Missy. An artist friend of mine last week at our film series premiere described this as the year of the bold pivot for those of us in the performing arts. Prospect is a nonprofit organization based in New York City. And over the summer, when it became clear that we were not going to be able to pursue our mission by presenting live performance on stage in the fall, we decided to shift into theater on film. And our company's mission is specifically about developing and presenting new musical theater. So over the summer, we commissioned 6 new short films. These are written by various emerging musical theater writers. They were written during August and September. We filmed them in September. And tonight we are sharing with you film number 2 of a 6-film series. So we're very thrilled to have this opportunity. I want to thank all of the artists who have been involved in making this happen. I want to thank the donors who have supported us and to our board of directors for all of their encouragement in this bold pivot that we've been making. And yes, I would like to also encourage you to find out more about the Vision series by visiting prospecttheater.org. And I also want to thank our host theater where we filmed this. It's the Goodwill Theater outside of Binghamton, New York in Johnson City. And I think those are all the thank yous that I have to kick us off here tonight. We are going to be starting with a cocktail hour, so you can hear a little bit about the background of Belva Lockwood. Then we'll show the film. And then afterwards, our entire cast and creative team will be online here to have a discussion about the film. If you have any questions or thoughts, you can type them into the chat during the film, and we'll be able to come back to those live at the end of the performance. So we hope you'll stick around and chat with us following the premiere of the film. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce JC Powers of Feminist Cocktail Hour, who's going to mix up a cocktail for us and tell us a little bit of the historical context behind this project that you will be seeing tonight. Thanks again, Missy.
Hello, I'm JC Powers of Feminist Cocktail Hour, and I'm thrilled to be here mixing it up with Prospect Theater Company. Tonight, we are going to be throwing it way, way back to the days of yore when theater was served with a side of polite lobby chatter and an overpriced cocktail. The bad news is that we are absent the lobby, but the good news is that this cocktail is well priced and can be made from the comfort of your own living room. I'm calling this evening's cocktail a Bell Vodka Lockwood Lemon Fizz. To make it, you are going to need some vodka, some sparkling water, some lemon juice, some pineapple juice, some sugar, some basil, and some fresh minced ginger. This cocktail is, of course, named in honor of the lady of the hour, Belva Lockwood. Now, Prospect is going to tell Belva's story as only they can through a fantasia of song, story, and movement. I'm here to give you the basics and whip up a cocktail. Or should I say, a cocktail? They can through a fantasia of song, story, and movement. I like to think of Belva as like the 1870s RBG. She was sort of this famous, unlikely feminist folk hero. You know, lady lawyers would post her portrait on their office walls. Women would name their babies after Belva, and her face was used to sell products ranging from bonds to a nerve tonic that she endorsed alongside Clara Barton. Interestingly, this nerve tonic actually was thought to be quite effective, perhaps because it was 20% alcohol, which is actually a slightly higher ABV than this cocktail, which we're going to start. We're actually going to start real simple, literally with a simple syrup. We're going to take our tablespoon of minced ginger, add it to a tablespoon of water, and a tablespoon of sugar in a small mason jar. Then you're going to secure the lid and shake it up, combining the ingredients to make a simple syrup to begin this cocktail. Now, Belva's beginnings were also simple. She was born in 1830 in rural upstate New York. Her mother was only 15 when she married Belva's father, a farmer. So there was no reason that Belva should have felt as she did, that she was destined for greatness, capable of achieving miracles, as you will hear more about. However, Belva's father had less faith in his daughter. When Belva came to him and told him that she wanted to go to college, he told her plainly, no. Boys go to college, girls get married. So that's what Belva did. At 18 years old, Belva married a local man and a few years later had a daughter named Laura. And her fate as a farmer's wife seemed sealed until she had a stroke of luck. Her husband died in a mill accident. And I know this sounds sad, but in a lot of ways, it really gave Belva her freedom back. I mean, look, it's the 1840s. Women don't have many rights to begin with. You know, they can't enter into contracts. They obviously can't vote, but married women have even fewer rights. They can't own property, and they were seldom permitted to work. As a widow, Belva found that it was now a necessity to work in order to support her child. So she went to secondary school and ultimately college in order to improve her prospects in the workforce. After she graduated with honors, Belva became a preceptress, which is to say a school administrator. She was earning $400 a week, next to the $600 a week earned not by other male administrators, but by the male teachers who she oversaw. The other male administrators were earning well more than twice what she earned, even though she was a head of household just like they were, and had more than her earning well more than twice what she bore this, even though she full decade before finally pursuing her dream of making a difference for women in this country and for herself. She moved to a city where Horace Greeley observed, "The rents are high, the food is bad, the dust is disgusting, and the morals deplorable." Yes, Washington, D.C. Some things never change. There she met Ezekiel Lockwood. Ezekiel was a Civil War veteran, a minister, a dentist, and a man 30 years Belva's senior. But none of that mattered next to the fact that he fully supported Belva's unusual desires to learn and to lead. I am going to lead us back towards our cocktail shaker. We are going to take some of this beautiful fresh basil, about 3 to 4 leaves, and we're going to muddle it with 3/4 ounce of lemon juice. Now, when we muddle something like this, we don't want to smash it. We really just want to gently release the juices from the leaves. That is what it really means to muddle an herb. Now, Belva had spent years muddling through life as a wife, a mother, and an educator. Belva was finally pursuing her goals in earnest. She applied to law school in 1870 and was unsurprisingly rejected on the basis of her sex. After all, the administrators were worried that having a lady in their class might be distracting for the male students. Now, of course, by this point, Belva was 40 years old, married, and by her own admission, somewhat stout. Makes you wonder how hard up those law students must have been. Now, eventually, she was accepted into the National University, now part of George Washington University. She was accepted with 14 other women, 2 of whom, herself included, finished all of the coursework. At the end of their coursework, neither of these women were granted diplomas, with the justification that to give a woman a diploma from the university of their coursework would devalue the degree. Obviously, Belva could not let this stand, so she found a loophole. In the university's charter, it designated the President of the United States as the ex officio president of the university. So Belva wrote to President Grant a long, flowery letter asking nicely that he, review the fact that she had completed this work and deserved to be a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. The letter went ignored. So Belva tried again. Dear President Grant, I have finished this curriculum. I demand my diploma. 2 weeks later, she had it. It shouldn't shock you to know that becoming a lawyer was for Belva not just as simple as getting a diploma. To prove that she deserved to be a practicing lawyer as a woman, she had to make her case again and again and again. Though I will tell you, Belva had no shortage of clients, and who knows why? Maybe it was because her rates were lower. Perhaps it was because people wanted to see what a lady lawyer looked like. Or maybe it was because she had spent years making connections in DC and was a damned fine lawyer. I guess we'll never know. But every time Belva had to argue a new case, it seemed that she had another new bureaucratic hill to climb. The first thing was that she had to be admitted into the bar in DC, a hurdle she eventually cleared. She also became the first woman to practice law in Maryland, although the court that admitted her rescinded that admission just shortly thereafter. And then beyond all of this, there was that highest bar she had to clear, the bar to the federal bench that would allow her to argue in front of the Supreme Court. Belva came at this issue from 2 fronts. She worked with men in Congress to get a bill passed, while at the same time appealing to the Supreme Court itself. In 1876, the Supreme Court voted 6-3, no girls allowed, nya, 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 nya. So Belva went back to Congress. She drafted a bill herself, officially called an Act to Relieve Women of Certain Legal Disabilities. This bill was introduced by an ally in Congress, and in 1879, it was passed. Only a few weeks later, Belva became the first woman to argue in front of the Supreme Court. I will bring to that, and so can you. So we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of pineapple juice to our cocktail shaker, and then we're going to add 1/2 ounce of that simple syrup that we mixed up earlier. After that, you can pop in 1.5 ounces of vodka. Although, if you are a temperance advocate like Belva, you can feel free to omit the alcohol. Belva was a temperance advocate, as were many other women's rights activists in her day. She was also a pacifist and, of course, a well-known suffragist. Belva's philosophy on suffrage and women's rights can basically be summed up by this quote: "Women will never have equal rights until we take them, nor respect till we demand it." These ideas were somewhat at odds with other prominent suffragists of her day, like Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony, who believed that given the chance, the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, remember, would eventually give women the right to vote. Well, Belva pushed back against this tact in person and in print. It was her platform that women needed to establish their own party. And this idea caught the eye of Marietta Stowe, an activist who had already established the Equal Rights Party and was looking for a woman to nominate for president. In 1884, Belva Lockwood accepted that nomination and became the first woman to run a full, legitimate campaign for president. Now, of course, she didn't win, but she did receive, it seems, more than 4,000 votes and decided to run again in 1888. Belva was able to travel the country campaigning because her husband Ezekiel had passed away in 1877 and her daughter Laura was now grown and had a child of her own. Belva, of course, ran on a platform based on equality. She was looking for freedom for women to divorce, freedom for women to enter into contracts, and to have jobs, to get equal pay to men, to have equal access to education. But more than that, she was running just to demonstrate the idiocy of denying women suffrage. I mean, she was running for president, but she couldn't vote for herself. Ultimately, Belva knew that she wasn't going to win, but she ran, to shake things up. And that was totally Belva's style. Belva sought the spotlight. I mean, she went around town on her tricycle. The tricycle, like the bicycle, was a sign of female autonomy and Belva's preferred method of transit. She didn't care if someone might, see a little bit of ankle. She was a woman who was in her 50s but believed in the importance of calisthenics. So what I'm saying is Belva was used to a certain amount of ridicule, and during her campaign, there was no shortage of political cartoons and criticism from luminaries like Susan B. Anthony, who believed that her campaign made a mockery of the women's movement. None of this deterred Belva Lockwood. Belva's life after her foray into politics was just as rich and as varied as her life before. She kept herself busy, making money on the lecture circuit, and her house was always bustling, doubling as boarding house and as her legal offices. She did actually continue to practice law into her 80s and actually won her biggest Supreme Court case in 1906 when she was 76 years old. She won it on behalf of the Cherokee tribe, a settlement of $5 million, one of the largest settlements up till that date. A sparkling achievement to top off her legal career that we are going to acknowledge with some sparkling water to top off this cocktail. Now, the late, great Ruth Bader Ginsburg referred to Belva as a woman who would not be put down, an advocate for justice who unsettled society's conception of women. So why don't we hear more about her? Well, there's of course the easy answer that we do not do enough in our history classes to tell the story of women. But there are more complexities surrounding Belva. For one thing, she didn't take the time to write her memoirs. She was a busy lady, and there was no biographer writing her story contemporaneously. More than that, Belva's daughter, Laura, who was basically her support staff at her legal practice and also wrote in the newspaper, a little gossip column in D.C., she passed away when she was only in her 40s. She even left her 11-year-old son to her 71-year-old mother. And it was this boy who ultimately would inherit all of Belva's belongings. And he chose to sell all of her papers to the Salvation Army for scrap. Luckily, Lady Lawyer Lockwood's legacy was so impactful that more than a century later, historians, storytellers, and theater makers are working to make sure that her story continues to be told. And it's a tale that's like this cocktail: bright, effervescent, inventive, and lasting. Cheers, my dears. Now, there's lots more of Belva's story to be told. Make sure to stay tuned after the show for a talk back with the cast and creative team. But for now, sit back, have a sip, and enjoy this premiere screening of Lady Lawyer Lockwood Rides Her Tricycle.
In the early Washington light rides a rover out of the night. Keep alert, you may catch the sight of Mrs. Lawyer Lockwood on her tricycle,
pedaling through Washington town in her polished black velvet gown.
Careful, friend, she may run you down. It's Mrs. Lawyer Lockwood on her tricycle.
Mrs. Lawyer Lockwood on her tricycle. Whether the sun beats bicycle, she'll speed right by on that tricycle. Riding here and there, District Court to Franklin Square.
The crackpot you like, Lady Law on her trike.
Sitting tall in her triangle seat.
On her seat,
Never know what oddballs you'll meet
on her seat.
in the wilds of a Washington street. Then Mrs. Lawyer Lockwood, the Lady Lawyer Lockwood. This is Lawyer Lockwood rides.
Look out! Mrs. Lockwood,
Who's asked?
I'm Clara Shortridge. I'm so delighted to meet you. It's an honor.
Clara Shortridge from,
California.
why are you here?
Oh, to bring you this.
Post office out of order?
I was instructed to deliver it personally.
Thank you.
Aren't you going to open it?
I generally open my mail in private.
Wait, I'm supposed to bring back your reply.
To whom?
To Marietta Stowe.
Really?
You sent a letter to the newspaper.
You work for the Women's Herald.
It is quite time we had our own party, our own platform, our own candidate.
I wrote that.
We took your advice. We made a women's party.
Well, isn't that a thing?
And we've nominated a candidate.
I offer my sincere congratulations to Mrs. Stowe. I am sure
We've nominated
she
you.
will make an excellent... I'm sorry?
We've nominated you for president. It's all in the letter. I am to bring back your reply immediately. Will you accept?
Hold on. She nominated me?
We all did. It was a proper convention. We voted.
For president
Yes.
of the United States?
Lockwood, 1884. You said it yourself. It is quite time we had our own candidate.
I didn't mean me.
I know there wouldn't be much chance of you winning.
There'd be no chance of me winning.
But will you accept?
Absolutely not.
Why? Don't you believe in miracles?
5 cents a miracle.
I've been out of the miracle business for a long time.
5 cents a miracle.
So you did believe once. When you were a kid maybe and still thought you could do anything.
5 cents a miracle. Wanna see, wanna see. 5 cents a miracle. Won't you buy one from me? Watch me do it. Watch for a miracle, nothing to it. Fun little miracle, what will the miracle be? Oh, step right up for the miracle girl, that's me. Peter walked on water underneath a stormy sky. If Peter walked on water, why can't I? 2 cents a miracle, lower price coming by. 2 cents a miracle, soon as I can get dry. God has spoken, held back a miracle, the water's broken. Trust in a miracle, just in a miracle, you want a miracle too. It's no big deal for a miracle girl to do. Prophets bring a person back to life after he dies. So if my faith is strong, the dead will rise. Special on miracles, come and watch one for free. You get a miracle, I get practice for me. Grown-up faith can move a mountain, that's a grown-up skill. So I will move this tiny baby hill. If I can't even move a tiny baby hill this small, perhaps I can't make a miracle after all.
Nope, can't recall.
Please reconsider, Mrs. Lockwood. The Republican platform doesn't have anything about rights for women. You said it. We need our own platform. You would be our first female presidential candidate.
Victoria Woodhull was first,
Technically, she wasn't old enough to run. She didn't get any votes.
whereas I would get 5, maybe even 10 whole votes.
You have a husband, right? That's one right there.
My husband passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. You know, I almost said no when he asked me.
Belva, your mother and I would be so relieved if you considered
No.
marriage. The neighbor's boy has
I
been
almost
asking
said
about
no
you
when
every
he
day.
asked me.
I would
Well-
rather go to school. If I can convince them to let in a woman.
Even if you did, my dear. How could we ever afford it? He's a good man, Belva.
Luckily, it was the practical choice. I am nothing if not a practical woman.
Uriah, thank you for coming over. I just have a lot to think about.
Not to worry, Belle. Father told me you'd be nervous. He told me you'd be scared. He told me you'd be sensitive, so Belle, I came prepared. Bought a great big book on marriage, learned how it's supposed to go. If you agree to marry me, I'll tell you everything I know.
That's very kind.
When a boy sees a girl, his senses grow weak. He'll summon his courage and march up to speak to her dad. She'll be glad, glad a man took care of it all. When a girl sees a book, her face will grow pale. She'll stress over letters unless someone male handles mail. Don't you fret, let a man take care of it all. Take all I am, take all that's mine. Throw your own things away till we're just the same, one home, one name. Now tell me, Belle, what do you say? I know it's a really big decision.
Yes, it
I
is.
respect whatever you decide. It's completely up to you.
I think
mean it. Really? Oh, you don't know how happy you've made me. I can't wait to start our life. We'll have babies galore, have more than enough. I'll ruffle their hair, then return to the rough, manly grind. You'll unwind, tending kitties at play, making meals every day, doing light, breezy chores, washing clothes, sweeping floors, simple things, oh so easy to do. Never worry, let a man take care of you.
Sounds romantic.
He was a wonderful man, and I miss him very much. What are you still doing here?
I'm waiting for your reply.
I told you I don't accept.
Why not?
Too much work, too little gained.
Since when are you afraid of work? You went to law school. I'd give anything to go to law school.
Then go to law school, and you can run for president.
The California schools won't admit women.
Dear Mrs. Lockwood,
Washington schools didn't either.
Madam, your admission would not be expedient as it would likely distract the attention of the men. Respectfully, George F. Sampson, President, Columbian College.
But you graduated somehow.
To His Excellency Ulysses S. Grant, President, USA.
That also took a few tries.
Sir, are you or are you not also president of the National University Law School?
The young men of the class didn't want to graduate with a woman.
I have passed through the curriculum of study in that school and am entitled to and demand my diploma. Very respectfully, Belva A. Lockwood.
I got there eventually.
And became the first woman to argue a case before the Supreme Court.
Even they wouldn't swear me in at first.
Mistress Lockwood, you are a woman.
I plead guilty to that charge.
This cause will be continued for 1 week.
The justice was flummoxed.
Mistress Lockwood, you are a married woman.
Guilty again.
I need another week with this.
The law was very clear. Any attorney could be admitted. Not any male attorney, any attorney. And yet...
As this court knows no English precedent for admission of women to the bar, it declines to admit them, unless there shall be an act of Congress.
An act of Congress. It was time to saddle up my tricycle.
Wait, I just have to ask, why the tricycle?
Bicycles require trousers. Ding, ding, coming through. Look out! I'm looking at you. Look out! Stand back for a bit. Look out! Wanna hit me? Let 'em. I can only get 'em one vote at a time. One every day. No other way. Gotta get 'em one vote at a time. Can't ever cease. Piece by small piece. Never wanna walk. Only wanna run. 'Cause the work is never done. But one vote at a time. Till the war is won. Congressman, Mr. Butler, my dear Mr. Butler, how is the missus?
She's great. Just had another baby.
Is that 7?
No, 8.
Lord in heaven, please send my kisses.
That's very kind. I will.
All my love to you and to your spouse. One more thing, will you bring my bill before the House?
You have a bill.
To allow women to argue before the Supreme Court.
I'll present it if you want, Mrs. Lockwood, but it won't get out of committee. Mr. Glover hardly sends anything to the floor these days.
Great. I can only gather one vote at a time. Votes all around, cover more ground. Only gather one vote at a time. Try not to slip, get 'em to flip. Open up a heart, open up a door. Hold to what we're fighting for. Just one vote at a time. And then just one more. Mr. Glover, the great Mr. Glover. How were the horses?
Awful, I lost a fortune on one eye.
Bet on Juno.
Oh yeah? How would you know?
I have my sources.
Thanks for the tip.
Well, I wish you all the luck and more. Tell me, friend, will you send my bill out to the floor?
If Juno wins tomorrow, I'll do it. Can't imagine you'll get enough votes to pass it, though.
Mr. Lawrence, my love, Mr. Lawrence, how was your dinner?
Dessert was better, devil's food cake.
Chocolate icing with nuts sounds enticing. You're looking thinner.
Thank you for noticing.
Won't you try this pie and read my note? If you will, for my bill, I'm counting on your vote.
The lady lawyer bill, we delayed it until next session. Remind me when it comes around again, and bring some more pie when you do.
Is it really only one vote at a time? One coin in the cup? Can we speed this up? Mr. Butler, my dear Mr. Glover, Mr. Lawrence, how's the family? How's the horse I baked you yesterday? Little Annie, George, and One-Eye Cherry Strudel, sounds like fun. I hear you had another son. I wish you well with that. To hell with that horse anyway. Enjoy the cake, always at a run. 'Cause the work is never done. Just one vote at a time.
By 2/3 majority vote, the measure passes.
Till the war is won!
Mrs. Lockwood, if the bill hadn't passed, if you'd known all along you'd have to start all over again, would you still have done those things?
Never thought about it.
Were there any practical benefits other than the new law?
Connections in Congress. Those men helped me pass a lot of bills. After a while, they began to realize what a woman can do.
5 cents a miracle? No excuse, gotta buy.
And even if the bill had never passed, it would still be a blueprint for the next girl.
5 cents a miracle? Come on, give it a try. If Peter walked on water,
why can't I?
Mrs. Lockwood?
I can't run for president without a proper platform. Where's the ink? Clara, do you mind staying on for a bit? I need you to help me lay out some things.
Of course, Mrs. Lockwood.
The obvious plank is suffrage. It's ridiculous that a woman could run for the highest office in the land but not vote for it. Mrs. Stowe will be my running mate, of course.
Pedaling through Washington town in
her polished black velvet gown. Who can keep a country girl down when Mrs. Lawyer Lockwood rides her tricycle? I can only get 'em one vote at a time, one every day, no other way. Gotta get 'em one vote at a time, can't ever cease, piece by small piece. Never wanna walk, only wanna run, 'cause the work is never done. But one vote at a time, till the war is won.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me and we can get all of our friends back in the room. This is Cara Reichel again. I am the producing artistic director of Prospect Theater Company, and I was also the director of this particular film. So I am thrilled to be here tonight to host a little Q&A talk back with our cast and our creative team that brought this film to life. As I mentioned before the screening, we started this project over the summer, and it began by commissioning some writers to create short performances or short scripts that would be performed and captured on film. We knew we couldn't have a live audience. So I want to kick off tonight's talk with our book writer, composer, and lyricist, Britt Bonney. And just Britt, ask you to, when I reached out to you and kind of pitched you this idea, had you ever heard of Belva Lockwood? What was it about her story that inspired you, and what was your way into working on this project?
Well, I had heard of Victoria Woodhull, the very first female presidential candidate, but I hadn't heard of Belva, who is the second, but the first legitimate one, because she's the first one over 35, the first one who really got any votes. It was quite an exciting call to get, because we're all in these horrible, crazy pandemic times, and then here comes Prospect Theater wanting to actually make things, and it was so exciting to work on something that was gonna happen. And Belva is such a wonderful, wonderful human. It was fun listening to JC's cocktail hour earlier and just being reminded of all the research and all the things that she did and all her accomplishments as a lawyer, and to think that she's really responsible for getting women before the Supreme Court. I think that was the thing that impressed me most about her. Like, obviously, the pitch of the show is she's a presidential candidate, a female presidential candidate in the 19th century, but she really was such a force of a practicing attorney and had an incredible amount of accomplishments there. And when we think about, I don't think we can even really conceive of how limited the options were for women at the time. And hence the second song that Jacob sang, just to kind of illustrate for us how narrow the expectation was and how everybody just kind of went with that, and how much vision it took to step outside that. And that was what I was hoping to capture with Belva. And obviously, I can't ask for better than the lovely Tina Stafford. So I think she nailed it.
Cool. Well, thank you for that transition. I will say that when we started working on this, one of the things that Britt said to me was, we have to have a tricycle. So, Tina, what was it like being the woman who had to hop on that tricycle? And had you heard of Belva? What was your experience of coming into this and portraying a historical figure?
I had not heard of Belva, and I was shocked, especially because we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg during that very week, that we didn't hear more about women in history during this time. I feel like the tricycle was the easy part. I'm a cyclist anyway, and I think that we as actors, we tend to just do it. Whatever you want, we will just do it. I can do that. I can do anything you want me to do. But the idea of embodying somebody who really made a difference in history is still so moving to me, and I feel just so grateful that if we can even even if 5 people learn something about her tonight, and I think many more will learn from this theatrical experience, then we have moved the needle in history. And so thank you, Britt and Cara, for making this piece happen. And the performing of it was the gift, and we all really enjoyed taking off our masks and singing out New York style. It was fabulous.
Cool. Great. Well, I want to toss it over to the other half of the Belva Lockwood team, Allie. What was your context of this character coming into the project, and how did you sort of dive into this process? I will say I want to comment on the fact before we go on that we did lose Ruth Bader Ginsburg about 3 days before we started filming this. And that was, really, we know that Belva Lockwood was a very influential and encouraging person for Ruth Bader Ginsburg in her career. So it is what Tina said is really resonant with me as well. And Allie, what was your connection to Belva, if anything, and your approach to portraying a historic figure?
Yeah, well, what was amazing was in the space that we were rehearsing, in like next to the Goodwill Theater, there were portraits of celebrities all over the walls, and we noticed right away that RBG was right there, watching our process. So we very much felt like she was part of the entire experience. I didn't know anything about Belva. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't. But was so excited to learn about her whole journey. And I love, that this little nugget of information that she used to try and perform miracles as a child, Britt turned into this wonderful, delightful song of, just childhood hopefulness. I feel like that's so relevant right now, where we keep getting our hopes up and wanting to do things and sort of feeling like we might need to give up, but then there's something else that continues to propel us forward. And I thought that was so fun. And obviously, getting to play a youthful child and sort of progress through the ages and to look to Tina as the adult version was just really exciting. It was a really fun journey to play.
Cool. Well, I want to share that actually the way that I originally found out about Belva Lockwood over the summer, because I was not familiar with her work either, was through Naima Cragen, who is the CEO of the Goodwill Theater where we filmed. And she actually is a descendant of the Lockwoods. And although not a blood relative of Belva, had recently gotten into the research. So I'm very grateful to her for sharing that with me and sort of inspiring this piece. And also opening her theater to us for this residency. It was a really great opportunity for us to get away from New York City, be sort of in a bubble, and safely produce and film these projects. But I wanted to jump over to Jacob next and just sort of ask sort of a two-part question. I mean, first of all, I'm curious to hear what your experience was like being all of the men, every man in this piece. But also, just sort of what your experience was being in, you got to be up in that balcony, you got to be in all different parts of the theater. What was your experience at the theater itself?
Well, so first thing I want to say is it was incredible being surrounded by this marvelous group of women, truly brilliant, powerful, talented, and just incredible. It was such an honor to be there with y'all. So first question was what my experience playing all the guys was. It was great. It was a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite things to get to do, is to come up with silly voices and do, and then try to like make it actually mean something. That's the fun part, is getting to create all these different wacky people that swirl around inside my head at all times. So that was a fun experience. And then to be in that theater, I literally got to see almost every inch of it. I was in the balcony, that turned out to be one of my favorite shots. It was so cool to see the parachute, the Cara chute hanging down below me. It was so cool. So that was an awesome experience. And just that theater was so special. I mean, I remember the second we walked into it, just being blown away. First of all, being back at a theater for the first time in over 7 to 8 months. Second of all, being in this theater that felt so full of love and joy and just like dying to be used. It hadn't been touched by performers in, I guess, 30 something years. And you could feel that it was like, please do something in here. And so that was a really cool experience, getting to kind of step into that for the first time in a while. Yeah.
Cool.
It was awesome.
Thank you so much. And Fiona, you're up next, and you wear multiple hats. Jacob wore multiple hats of characters, but I guess you got a couple of different characters in there as well. But I wanted to ask, have you ever done something quite like this before? But you've also been our music director and a major role in the piece. And how was that for you diving into this process?
Oh, it was so much fun. I couldn't believe my good luck to get to do all of these things. First of all, to get to work on such wonderful written material. I mean, Britt wrote, I want to make sure people understand, she wrote the book, she wrote the lyrics, she wrote the music, she wrote it all. And it was amazing to get to work with that caliber of material and this caliber of cast and this wonderful production team. So it was awfully good fun for me. It felt like being in the sandbox and getting to play with everybody. I loved it.
Cool. I will say one of my favorite moments is when I asked you, like, hey, we can't really see your stockings. Can you get your leg up there? And then you immediately just like put your leg on the piano and play the rest of the show. So yeah, thank you for diving in. And just sort of a related question, going back to the space too. I know you have experience working in a historic theater with your company. So any thoughts or observations about performing in that historic venue?
It is amazing. So my home theater, so to speak, is the Irvington Theater in Irvington, New York, which was restored 30 some odd years ago from being very much like what the Goodwill was when we got there. And you can feel the history breathing in its walls, and you can smell the theatrical life of it when you walk in. And getting to the Goodwill was just like that. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with that space when they get a chance to really restore it and audiences get to experience it. I know we were all so blown away by it. And I would love to be able to share that in the future when we're all allowed to be in the theater together again.
Yes. Cool. Great. Well, Gabrielle, you were our wonderful cinematographer and camera operator for this project. And, I know you are both a performer and a filmmaker. So what was that like for you? You kind of, in a way, were the audience for us because you were moving around. And I'd love to just hear your thoughts about how those two parts of your world interact.
Yeah. Well, first, kind of echoing what everyone said, it was very nice to be in a theater. And, when it was described to me, like it's going to, be shot in an old theater, I think you kind of imagine things in your head. You're like, okay, an old theater. And then the Goodwill Theater, and you're like, oh, like this massive, this theater is not only huge, but like the architecture of the theater, you just like, you kind of walk in and you just imagine what it was like and what shows kind of were there. I was like, okay, we need to somehow capture the spirit of this space with me and my camera.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think, there was no audience. And so I was both kind of trying to enjoy watching everyone singing, but also, moving around with my camera and actually paying attention to what I'm doing at the same time. But yeah, I think it was just such a lovely experience kind of being able to play. And also, I don't know if everyone watching knows, but like this was put together in a very short period of time also. And so everyone kind of stepped up to the plate and, was just kind of on their game. And so for me, I think all of the actors made it really easy to capture. And yeah, it was a really kind of interesting experience because also both of my worlds are sort of colliding, like my love of musical theater, but then being on the other side and also filming it. And then also not only just filming it, but now we're sort of creating this new medium of what is theater on film. So yeah, I had a really great time.
Cool. Well, I'd love if anyone else, that is a really interesting question to me because part of this whole Vision series program that Prospect has been doing was in a way a grand experiment to see if we could find hybrid ways to keep the feeling of live performance, but make it in a safe way that will allow us to connect with audiences through the film, the medium of film. So would love to hear observations on sort of the difference in the process or the similarity and how it feels to you guys now. Many of you, I think Tina, this was your first time tonight seeing this film, but what was that like, and how did it feel different or the same to you?
I am delighted with the, except for my collar, which was coming down in that one scene. I feel that, if I had had the chance to do the piece more than 1 or 2 days, I feel that my energy would have changed slightly. The energy of one vote at a time is so exciting and fun, and the beginning is a little bit lower, but I wasn't able to gauge that at the time. So wouldn't it be fun to rehearse with a through line, know where we're going, know what to do? I mean, the difference was that we would finish a scene, and then that was the last time I'm ever going to have to think about that. And since we had all just kind of gotten the script that week, we had a lot in our brains, and it was sort of great to be like, okay, good, check that off. Now I'm going to work on the lyrics for the end of the song, and that's really what I'm, concentrating on. So I think I would have loved to concentrate on the bigger picture and the longer through line of the arc. But other than that, being in that space and the way you conceived of the space with Allie going on both sides, those were so beautiful. The way you used that that's the orchestra. I don't know if our audience understands, but that is the orchestra of that beautiful theater. And it was magnificent to be able to fill that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's no seats in the theater because it is basically a building that has sat empty for 30 years. You can't actually have a live audience in there at the moment. So yes, and just the what you were describing about the piecemeal way that film works versus theater, that was interesting in the process to me as well. And especially in post, when we realized that, yes, the best take was the one where your collar fell down when you ran across the bridge. And in my mind, I sort of thought, well, if this were a live show and she ran vigorously across the bridge and her collar fell down,
totally.
And
who cares after all?
Live theater. So we just, because of, our schedule was in large part dictated by some of the COVID safety guidelines that we had a 72-hour window to have everyone together in person. So yes, I would love to hear other people's thoughts and experiences of the process of making the film, and then also seeing kind of how all those pieces came together.
Well, I thought it was fascinating because it was this amazing hybrid experience. I see one of the questions that we have is, did the singers sing it live? Mm-hmm. And the singers did sing it live. So that's a very different thing than it would be in film, where we would have gone to the studio and we all would have recorded the audio tracks and then we would have gone in and lip synced. Instead, it was this wonderful thing where we really performed each scene, and everything that happened in that scene is what really happened. And Gabrielle filmed it, and that's how it happened. And so it was filmic, but it was still theatrical. And I think that probably is the wave of the future for this kind of thing, because there's just something that can't be captured if you don't sing it live. Mm-hmm. So I loved that about it. I loved that the camera was really a witness that caught these moments with us.
Cool. Allie, how about you? What were the different experiences that you had in bringing those worlds together?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I'm just so blown away by how great it sounds, how great it looks, because of course, we did it so fast. Sometimes we did one take of things, sometimes maybe 3 takes top. And so I think, there's definitely the fear, especially because we know that it will be captured forever, as opposed to the live performance of, wait, I'm not sure what I did just there, or did I actually get that harmony right, or maybe I stepped with the wrong foot, or there's sort of that added pressure knowing that, it won't just be live in the moment that it's live. But it was really exciting too. I mean, after all of this time, to actually get to look through Jacob's eyes while he was singing and be in the same space with him, and to be with Fiona, we're like choosing a tempo together, which is something that we just haven't been able to do during this time. I've been doing a lot of singing to the camera on my phone, which is absolutely not the same thing as collaborating in real time. And that was just so wonderfully satisfying to make theater again that way, in a way that we all also felt comfortable and safe, and that we were being protected. was just so soul filling and really, really helpful at this time.
And Britt was also so marvelous to change and trim and whatever key you want. And that is a skill
Pages
on its
flying
own.
everywhere.
Yeah, I think we are used to in theater, you know, you get that chance to do it again the next night. You know, we have previews and we have chances to like improve and you know, and yeah, that I think is like next level theater on film is like, how do we find a way to have an extended like development and rehearsal process that can also be safe? You know, we Prospect sort of set up these projects, like I said, according to some specific guidelines, but Jacob, any thoughts or observations from you about that process of the builds?
Other than it being just an absolutely wonderful experience, there was this moment that Allie was discussing, which was the added pressure of this is going to be on film forever. So to tell a tiny little anecdote, we were filming the beginning, and I hadn't played guitar in forever, and so I was like guitar chords flying through my brain. The lines to the song flying through my brain, the blocking flying through my brain. And we got this awesome last take of the intro, except the only big problem was there's this one beat where I look back and I say, what was it? There's what was it, Cara?
You like
Crackpot, yeah. The crackpot you like. And on this take, I knew I did it. I was like, we're not going to use that one. There's no way. I went, I completely forgot it. They were like, great, let's move on. And I was like, okay, all right, okay. And so we got to the end. They're like, yeah, no, we got everything. I was like, are we using that final take? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, can we do something again? Because I did it all wrong. And luckily, through all the magic, we had it taken care of.
Yes.
But to give an idea of that pressure of that, like, oh my God, are we going to get to do this again?
Yes. Well, it was sad. We had such a wonderful few days and then we haven't seen each other really together until now. So I want to make sure we address some of the audience questions that came up during the stream. One question, Britt, the question is, was this a condensed version? If not, do you have plans to expand it? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I mean, certainly, you know, we started out to write a short project, but any thoughts on the longer version of Belva?
Well, it was, we set out, as Cara said, to do a short musical. And part of the difficulty, I mean, you heard all the wonderful things that JC was saying earlier. This woman did a lot of stuff. And it was a challenge to figure out, how do we squish that down to 15 minutes and just try to capture her essence there. So to expand, I don't know, it would be hard, but I'm certainly willing to try if someone wants to produce it. I thought a lot about how you might try to place this into a larger context of women accomplishing things in a world that tries to smush them down as much as possible. And how, especially.
Ooh, I think she froze. Hopefully we'll pop back in a minute.
My internet isn't great. Am I back?
You're back.
Yes, you are back.
Fantastic. Yeah, I thought it maybe it's part of a larger thing that involves more stories of women we need to hear about. But I think there's a lot of different directions you could go with it if you wanted to turn it into a full thing. There's so much, even just from her.
Yeah, there are so many undertold and unknown stories in our history, and I'm excited that, you know, we're able more and more to like go back and find those and bring them to light. Question for Gabrielle. How did this cinematographic process differ from that of a film? And were there any ways that you consciously created something that felt theatrical on camera in the way you were shooting it, something that was different than the way you might shoot a film?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was both the challenge and what was exciting about it, because everyone's saying live. You know, had this been a film that was still a musical but wasn't sung live, it could have been a thing where, you know, the track was made and then, you know, we could have done all these different shots for one song. But because it was sung live and everything was live, you know, an entire musical number basically had to be captured almost in one shot, which was a challenge. But I think I tried to, with the camera movements and the frames, to kind of get a little bit of a hybrid. So be able to see the full stage and see that full picture and see the movement of the actors on stage, and not trying to hide that, like, we're on a stage, we're in a big theater, but then still get some shots that felt like it was a film that was a little bit more zoomed in. Because I was, you know, because there was no audience, I had the luxury of being on the stage with the actors. So, you know, if this was a show that was being filmed, right, you know, the videographer couldn't be on that stage, but I had the luxury of literally being right up there. So I think, yeah, it was the movement of the camera, and which also made it a little tough, because some of the scenes, there was so much movement from sort of that lower platform and then onto the actual stage, which then we, you know, did a couple of sort of, you know, reshooting select moments to get some little things that we couldn't get, you know, in that kind of first go at it. But yeah, it's a new it's a new thing. I think it's something that I think will be sort of developing and kind of, you know, honing our skills of exactly, you know, what things are a bit too cinematic, and, you know, what things, and also like the energy of a show reading correctly on camera. You know, is it too much? Is it not enough? So yeah, I think all a learning process, but I enjoyed the challenge.
Yeah. No, that's how I felt like, you know, coming off this process, was that I learned so much, and it sparked so many ideas about what was possible. And I think if this is something that Prospect or other companies continue doing this year, I think we will probably continue doing it for a little while longer. We're going to grow in our ability to find that sort of unique space between what feels like a live theater performance, and what are the qualities of that versus what can be captured on film. And in some ways, you know, yeah, the audience, the angle of the camera allowed us to be way closer to the performance, to the performer themselves, than we could ever be when we're sitting in a large theater. So there's something nice about that camera eye being immersive in the world of the story that I responded to. One of the questions in the chat was just a response about loving the way there were no attempt to hide the lights, and that was also intentional, wanting to see the exposed theatricality of what we were making, so that you know, people watching it would know that there were artists and humans and live theater artists making this piece. The question was, which I'll respond to, was what was the concept for the design? And you know, as mentioned before, we had very brief time periods to turn these projects around, but we did have a fantastic resident design team that designed all of the films that we've done in the past couple of months. And so, you know, we were filming another film like a couple days before this one, and another film a couple days after this one. And so we had a fantastic production designer who also does projection design, Leanne Arnold. We had a fantastic lighting designer, Adam Honore, and a fantastic sound designer and audio engineer, Marian Gomez-Villota, and a great production manager, Josh Cape, and production associate, Gabby Button. So that whole crew was really helping us take this historic theater space, and I would say, and turn it around so that we were creating a variety of different visual worlds for all these different films in a very short period of time. And I will say that the approach for this one was, we kept sort of talking about like, well, you know, it's a little bit Merchant Ivory, and it's a little bit, you know, scrappy indie theater. So I think that's kind of what ended up on screen. But you know, we were, the main concept for the design was that we really did want to make people watching this feel like they were watching people making theater, telling a story, playing roles. You know, one of the we decided for these short projects, you know, when I came to Brit, I said, we're only going to have 4 people maximum, and we were keeping our team, both our crew and our artistic teams, very small because we wanted to be able to ensure safety for everyone as much as we could. So we wanted to have these small artist pods making these films, and that sort of meant that everybody had to play a lot of roles and literally wear many hats and mustaches. Allie, I see your stick on mustache one away from before, but it's, you know, to me, that is a big difference between theater and film. And in film, a person that is on screen is usually only one person. They're not playing 12 characters in the course of a 15-minute piece. So, so yeah, keeping that sense of theatricality at the forefront was really important from a design and director standpoint. I think I have addressed pretty much all of the questions that I see here. Someone asked about the market of the film. I'm curious if, just as sort of a closing question, if you guys, anyone has thoughts on, you know, ways this film might impact people, or like what do you think is the takeaway? And you know, this person suggests educational opportunities that might come out of this, but anyone have thoughts or responses on or takeaways on where this piece might find its home?
You've stumped us.
It's a stumper.
It is,
and this is a gabby group of people. So.
Yeah, I know. Well, because it's historical, but it's not Hamilton, you know. So it's not bridging any kind of super modern gap that's going to. I mean, it is educational, historical, funny. I think that the characters, especially if it were to continue with people playing multiple characters, I think that can really add, especially because if it's a woman-heavy production and we have, you know, someone like Jacob, then we're set because he can play all the parts. You might have to shave your beard. But so then it's a theatrical event in addition to being educational. Which I think theatrical events, people love seeing people playing multiple parts or doing, you know, riding a tricycle or playing musical instruments. You know, I just think all of those things might really make it something that's theatrical in a way that people you can't look away. There's too much going on. It's exciting.
Cool. Any other thoughts, or anyone just want to jump in with the final observation before we wrap up here?
Well, I just think, I mean, so much school is online right now, right? How wonderful would it be if they had a little historical lesson, maybe without the cocktail part, but where they learned about this amazing woman, Belva Lockwood, and then got to watch something that, you know, entertaining and funny, but also you're learning things as you watch. And I think that's sort of the magic of theater, is that we learn empathy for people, we learn facts, we learn possibilities of what people can be in the world. And so I think what we all have created is something really special that, particularly during this time of, you know, kids not necessarily being able to be in their normal learning environments, going to see theater, should translate really well. And I'm just glad that I got to be a part of it.
Me too.
Cool.
I mean, I'm seeing Netflix special. So.
Belva Lockwood, the Untold Story.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Hey.
I think also, like, you know, when kids are in school and perhaps Belva shows up in their textbook, right? It's a black and white photograph of this woman, and it's just like, okay, this is Belva. But then this, you know, we realize that Belva is a real person and she lived a real life, and it kind of like takes her off of the page. And yeah, I think, like Allie was saying, I think that, yeah, how amazing would it be to like interrupt your Zoom lesson with, you know, this piece? I think that, yeah, I think that's definitely a place that it.
Yeah.
I hope so. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I so enjoy watching Tina sing One Vote at a Time, because I think of the film in an educational context. There's so much that we read about and watch that makes us think of a hero as someone who just kind of swoops in and in one go takes all the problems and makes them better. And I think what Belva shows us, and hopefully what comes across in the little film, is that it's actually really painstaking work. Just like one tiny step, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it really just was a life's vocation for her. And it sort of gives us a model for what that kind of change can look like.
Yeah,
especially now.
And we're all standing on each other's shoulders too, right? Every person who moves the needle forward, it gets built upon and built upon and built upon. And
yeah.
Great. Well, that is a great thought to end on. We are all part of that ongoing journey. So I hope everyone, exercises the right to vote now that that's coming up. I know we're part of the Beyond the Vote event here for the Festival of Arts and Ideas. And thank you guys for being part of this film. Thank you for being here tonight to discuss the process. And thank you to our audiences for tuning in. We hope you will spread the word. And there's actually going to be, if you're interested in seeing the film again, there's going to be an encore premiere on the Prospect Theater Company YouTube channel at 8:30. And I know there was a little bit of an issue with the link earlier on the Prospect channel, but I promise this one will be working. So please tell your friends, jump on over to Prospect YouTube at 8:30 and you can watch it one more time. And you can also watch it from here on out at the Prospect Theater Company YouTube channel, as well as the other films in the Vision series that were being released over the next month and a half. Thank you guys again so much. And I think that's it for tonight.
Yeah, keep up the great work and thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Cara. Thank you, everybody.
Amazing
Thanks,
work.
everybody. On behalf of both the festival and Prospect, thank you again for joining us this evening. Each company has more programming to share upcoming. Prospect's Vision series continues on Saturday with Unraveled, a suspenseful retelling of Theseus and Ariadne's search for each other while lost in the labyrinth. And the festival's Beyond the Vote miniseries continues this weekend with a limited release digital concert. Jazz at Lincoln Center presents the Democracy Suite, featuring the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra Septet with Wynton Marsalis. Thanks very much. Have a good night.